it's Cassie here. I made it to Brisbane, Australia, and I thought I would just quickly hop on here, kind of tell you guys about how my plane journey was like, because let me tell you, it was not good. It was very, very stressful. I really wanted to film some of like that stuff, but I just had absolutely no time. I was sweating like crazy and just freaking out. Anyways, so starting with the flight, Vancouver to Sydney and then Sydney to Brisbane was my flight plan, and the flight was 15 hours. That's a long time on a plane. I don't know if you guys have taken a 15-hour airplane ride, but it's not enjoyable and it feels like it's 3 days long. Like, that's literally what it feels like, especially if you can't sleep on a plane. Like me, I have a lot of trouble sleeping on a plane. I can't sleep continuously. I have to sleep in like 30-minute increments, and obviously if I have to wake up every 30 minutes, it feels like it's taking forever, you know? Some people can knock out for like 6 hours at a time. I can't fucking do that. My flight was actually delayed 40 minutes. Everyone had already boarded, everyone was sitting in their seats, and then the captain comes on and he's like, oh, refueling is taking longer than expected. It's gonna be another 20 minutes. So everyone's already sitting in their seat and they're waiting there for 20 minutes. And then after the next 20 minutes, there's another 20 minutes. So in total, we had a full plane and everyone was sitting there waiting for 40 minutes to just like leave the airport. So that was like, oh my god. It's just, no one likes it when their plane doesn't leave on time, especially when you're in a crowded space with people. It's just awful. I had a toddler behind me. I could hear all her screaming, all her whining, all her fussiness. And you know what, I get it. I feel bad for the little toddler. I feel bad for the mom, because the mom was trying to keep the toddler quiet, but it was just impossible to do. So I get it, but I still hate it, you know? It was awful. It was so loud, and because it's this little girl, she has like a very sharp sound too. So when she's screaming or whining, it's like very high pitched, and I think I'm sensitive to sound now. Like, the older I am, the more sensitive I am to loud noises and sound. And it was just not enjoyable, like very, very painful. I was sitting right by the airplane, like wing or so, and I don't know what it is about that positioning on the airplane. Maybe it was the same for everyone else, but for me, I felt like when the airplane started, the whole thing was just rumbling so incredibly. It was loud to the point where I like had to go like this and like plug my ear because it was so loud. I thought the airplane was broken. I was rotating between either my earbuds to watch movies, my AirPods to listen to music, and use like the noise cancellation feature to just like try and drown out the little girl and drown out just like the overall hum of the airplane, which is really loud. I also had earplugs because I was like, okay, if I want to sleep, then I'll use the earplugs. But even with the earplugs in, you still hear so much sound. So not only did I have this very fussy toddler behind me, but the girl sitting beside me, she just got progressively worse and worse during the plane ride. Her nose started to get very, very congested, and she kept sniffling. She kept going like she's like trying to like suck back all the stuff that's coming out of her nose, and she started to sneeze, like constantly sneezing, like achoo, 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 and then she'll make that like sniffling sound, then blowing out her nose, like rotating those three things. She was getting more congested and more sniffly and more sneezy as the plane ride went on. So at that point, I'm just like, okay, well, if this lady beside me has COVID, then I'm pretty screwed, because she's just sneezing like constantly. The plane landed. I was happy I got to Sydney, and it was raining. I had to take a connecting flight to Brisbane, and I had a 2-hour window to get to my next flight, and I'm like, okay, that's totally doable, you know, like 2 hours, so manageable. It's like a perfect amount of time almost. But that was not the case at all for me. What ended up happening was there's all these lineups you have to do to like declare yourself and yada yada yada. And then apparently we had to go pick up our own luggage, and then we have to transfer our luggage to the next plane ourselves, and that means we have to check in ourselves for the next plane too. So I'm like, okay, this is still doable, like I can do it. I grab all my shit, which ends up coming out last. Okay, I waited so long for my freaking bag. I'm like holding this like super heavy like check-in bag, a super heavy carry-on bag that has like all my electronics and my shoes inside of it, so it was really heavy, and my toiletries, like those are all like very heavy liquidy things. And then my backpack, I had like more electronics in there, and I was wearing this like plaid coat that I couldn't really take off because there's no space in my bag, and I was just like pulling everything, dragging. Turns out that domestic departures are in a completely different area, and you have to take a bus to get there. So I finally find this bus thing, and we're all like piled onto this bus. It was like a 10-12 minute bus ride just to get to the domestic departure, which is so inconvenient. People have always told me that YVR is like one of the best airports, has won awards and stuff like that, and I always thought, oh, YVR doesn't look that fancy, it doesn't look, you know, like it's that special in any way. But after going to Sydney, I'm like, wow, some of these airports are really designed badly, because everything at YVR is like one contained space, and it's pretty clear where you go to do what, versus in Sydney you gotta freaking take a bus to go to domestic departures. Like what? And then so by the time we got to the domestic departure, I was trying to use the machine to check in, and when I tried to use the machine to check in, it wasn't working. My passport wasn't scanning, nothing was working. I was there trying to figure it out for so long, and everything's automated. I didn't really find anyone that was standing there to like, you know, help me answer questions if I got stuck out. I ended up going to the ticketing counter that was behind me, and the girl basically was like, oh yeah, you missed your flight already, there's no way you can make it. I'm like, cool. She booked me for one at 12 instead of 10 a.m. And by that point, I was so tired, guys. I was sweating, I was moist everywhere, I'm dehydrated, because usually on the airplane I don't drink too much water because I don't want to keep going to pee. So I was very dehydrated, I felt super stinky, I felt like my breath was probably disgusting because I haven't like brushed it in over a day. After I passed security, I'm like, oh, okay, thank God. At least now I can finally slow down a bit, don't need to rush so much. So I quickly went to get water, and I got like a little snack, but like as I was walking, I felt like I was floating. Like my head was just like not working, and I was so tired, and I was so hungry too. So when I finally sat down, it felt so good to just sit there and chill. So yeah, my Brisbane flight was whatever. I got the very last seat on the plane, so that meant I sat right by the washrooms, and you guys all know sitting by the washroom is literally the worst seat you can take because people line up there, it smells like washroom, there's just always people there, right? So luckily it's only a 1 hour flight, so I didn't really care. So I got to Brisbane, I'm like, oh my God, I'm finally here. It took me so long. It was pouring rain when I got there. Brisbane is like a very tropical kind of climate, so when it rains it pours kind of deal, and it was just pouring when I got there. Pouring rain. My boyfriend, he ended up parking at like the wrong place because that's where he got previously picked up by a friend, and that's actually not the correct pickup area. And so I had dragged all my shit outside. I was waiting at the pickup area that was supposed to be the correct one, but I couldn't find him. And remember, I don't have Wi-Fi, I don't have data at this point. If I have to use Wi-Fi, I have to drag all my shit back into the airport, which is like a 5-minute walk away in like the pouring rain, just to try and get connected to internet and to go back out and try and find him. I was so concerned because it was raining so hard. Luckily, I borrowed 2 really good Samaritans. They lent me their phone, and I had my boyfriend's number, so I was able to call him, and then we were like, oh my God, like where do I meet you? It was just like very stressful. I could hear the stress in his voice and kind of like a little bit like, oh, well, why aren't you here? And I'm just like, well, why aren't you here? You know, and I'm like already on the verge of breaking down because I'm just so tired and annoyed and frustrated because I can't find him, he can't find me. I don't know how to tell him where I am. We ended up figuring it out and I ended up seeing him, and when I finally got into the car, I was just like, oh, like it's almost like I was vibrating with all this adrenaline. But anyways, that is my whole plane story. I really hope I don't have to travel like that again for like quite a while. These past 2 days I've just been trying to get my life together. The place that we're living in right now, it's still a little messy, not gonna lie. We're like missing some furniture here and there. I really wanted to escape the rain in Vancouver, but Brisbane has just been pouring rain this entire week. And I think it's gonna be raining like this for like another week at least. You know, the weather affects my mood and I really wanted to see like bright blue skies. It's just been not what I expected, but that's totally fine. Like, I know it's just for the meantime. Anyways, I gotta go. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.